Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Wrath of the Righteous with me, Regadon. Let's finish looting the Blackwing Library,
Might be trap, might be treasure.
and then head back to the Defender's Heart. Without a shadow of a doubt, expecting nothing in return, the life and feats of Lord Axelar Tresbit, by Nora Dendawar, who we'll meet later, a Nerosian Cruciform Cathedral Publishing House. Frowning, Lord Tresbit made a gesture for his people to halt. Everyone froze. No one dared to disobey his order, even one given with his eyes alone. Lord Tresbit loved to say that he could only win when his whip frightened his soldiers more than the demon's claws, and he succeeded like no other in enforcing discipline. The Lord approached what we took for a scarecrow from afar, left in the middle of the wasteland by an unknown farmer. Pricking it with his sword, the Lord made us a sign to approach. It was the body of a young crusader, a boy, not 20 years old. Horribly broken, disemboweled, with shards of bone sticking out and shreds of skin dangling in the wind. Horror watched us from the stake, eye sockets filled with worms. A contemptuous smirk crossed the Lord's face. "Coward," he said through his teeth. Fled from the battle. The demons caught him and he surrendered without a fight. And here are his useless fellows. The Lord kicked an inconspicuous bump under his feet, and it rolled, revealing an open helmet's visor with greenish-gray mush inside, swarming with insects. We shivered and looked down, realizing the ground underneath our feet was a mix of shards of metal and pieces of flesh. "Cowards," the Lord said again. "Cowards and weaklings. They are doomed even before they approach the world wound. They should never have left their uncomfortable homes. What did they achieve? They delivered the demons a hot lunch. That's all. Let's go. While the slugs waste their useless lives, someone has to win this ridiculous war." Without turning away, or hitting the disgusting crunching sound underneath his feet, he strode forward. We hurried after him, trying not to step on anything that was, until recently, a part of someone's body.
A failure is just a step to a success.
The enormous black rift cuts the library in half. It goes so deep that one can only wonder who could have possibly wreaked such destruction and how. Oh, we know it was the Scary. And with his scythe.
I'm gone.
I found something.
The bookcase is full of text describing demons and methods of fighting them. Regrettably, all this knowledge wasn't enough to save Canabras from the spawn of the Abyss. The keen edge of truth, recollections, and admonitions of an Inquisitor of Asmodeus. The demon lords whose names are known to mortals number no more than a few dozen. Far more numerous are those who aspire to that rank and their own abyssal realm, but who as yet are unable to make a bid for such power. There are hundreds, possibly thousands of such demons, but their names are known only to experienced demonologists, and to those unhappy fools who decide to sell their souls to the Abyss, if they'll even to find a worthy patron for their trouble. Time and time again, one of these weaker demons will secure resounding victory, scale the heights, or should that be sink to the depths, of the demon hierarchy, already fancying themselves a demon lord, when they soon make a misstep and die an inglorious death. The fate of such a demon could serve as a lesson to the rest, but if demons possess the capacity to learn from their own, or others' mistakes, would they even be demons? No. A stubborn refusal to learn is one of the major flaws that distinguish the bedlam of the Abyss from the well-ordered hierarchy of Hell. The demoness is Yagna. She is of the Sevenfold Swarm, serves as an example of such a fall from disgrace. One of the many daughters of Lamashtu, who possess 7 bodies, 7 mortal women of the various races of Galarian, each with an ant's head, controlled by one hive mind. She commanded various insects, swarming, crawling creatures, with ants her especial preference. The author of these words witnessed the oath of obedience sworn by cultists of Isyagna with his own eyes. The witless initiate was forced to meditate while sitting atop an anthill. However, the human sacrifices being carried out by this fool's brethren around the little town I was serving in at the time were far from amusing. It required no small effort to destroy the cultists, who had been summoning ravenous swarms and spreading madness in the name of their mistress. So what became of her? What fate befell Isyagna? The particulars are unknown, a consensus holds that the mistress of the crawling swarm ran afoul of the master of the flying swarm, the far more powerful demon lord Discari. Lila Mastru's intercession saved her daughter from death, but not from abasement and the loss of her powers. Consequently, most of her followers forsook for the cult of the Mother of Beasts. Today, Isyagna is worshipped by a handful of individuals who possess a stubborn predilection for sitting on anthills, and even to them, can grant only minor spells. And we learned something new. This book grants a +1 competence bonus on saving throws against swarms. That does come up a fair bit, but that +1's not going to help out a whole lot. How to make money during the war against demons. My mentor and training partners used to feel sorry for me. I had enough power to summon and hold a lesser imp at best. Would you call that real magic? Huh. But there's nothing a smart lad like me can't use to stake out his reputation and make his fortune. There's one particularly nasty sort of demons called abracandilus. They made of the souls of vandals and destroyers of art. In demon form, they continue to do the same. When they see beautiful pictures and statues, they fly into a rage and desecrate them. I once overheard a conversation on the street between two art collectors. They couldn't decide whether they should patronize a young and promising artist or a famous maestro whose best days were behind him. So I made them an offer. How about we place the two paintings side by side, and I'll summon an abracandilu. Whichever painting it attacks first would naturally be the more beautiful. The key was to banish a demon in time before it destroyed the painting. But that wasn't going to be a problem for me. The collectors agreed to run this experiment according to my plan, and thus my legacy began. 3 months later, not a single art event could do without me and my demon servant. We're invited to exhibition openings, appraisers' workshops, and auctions. The more the enraged the demon became on seeing another carving or slapdash daub, the higher its price soared, and they paid me well for my appraisal. I often staged artist battles, in which the demon could choose which of two paintings it despised most, and the tickets sold like hotcakes. However, there was one unfortunate incident. A gnome and an elf came to me from Absalom, two young bright-eyed artists. Said that weird, artists. They wanted to enter one of these battles, but they offered peculiar sculptures instead of paintings. The gnome had a huge pile of nibbled apples preserved by a spell. The elf had a watering can without any holes, which stood on a cart with one square wheel. This, as they explained to me, was modern art. It was, how do they put it, unconventive, or some such thing. They claimed it was popular in Absalom, where the gnome and the elf were famous, unconventive artists. Well, my job is simple, to display, their works, gather an audience, and release my demon from its prison. And that's precisely what I did. But the abracandilu came out of his cage, looked at the apples, and at the watering can with the cart, then looked at me like I was a complete idiot, turned around, and went back to its cage with an expression of utter disappointment. It was nearly an international scandal. I was so upset that I even returned the money for the appraisal to the gnome and the elf. But it's alright. My business still thrives, even without the Absalom clientele. Meanwhile, where are my more talented fellow apprentices? Half are still crouched over books learning what they can. The other half went off to those ridiculous crusades and perished. They never considered that demons can be used to make money, a lot of it. I think I'll soon buy myself a little palace, and cover its walls with the works of all the most famous artists. Huh. That's right, that book didn't teach us anything.
We do it
My
my
tail
way.
is twitching. Must be a sign.
Alright, we did just find a unique warhammer. So, if you succeed in the perception or religion check, when you first meet the, quote, crusaders in the Blackwing Library, and you take the option where you don't fight them right now, you do get this later on. Whenever this +1 Cold Iron Warhammer confirms a critical hit, all enemies in the 15-foot area must pass a Fortitude saving throw DC 16, or become prone. That's actually really good. But you do have to crit with it.
It went splendidly.
Now this is a statue of the mage who founded the Blackwing Library. He got the wing off a demon known as Avrock, hung it above the entrance. And we got the Quarterstaff of Coercion. This +1 Quarterstaff adds +1 to the DC for all will saving throws against spells the wielder casts. I won't give that to her. But you have to be careful when giving Nenio or any caster a Quarterstaff, because even if you have, say, one of the cantrips toggled on for autocast, they'll very frequently run into melee combat. Happens with Ember as well. And it's a little inconvenient because quarterstaves are usually the items that give the best bonuses to spellcasters. I'm pretty sure when we transport the storyteller back to the Defender's Heart, it skips the overworld map. So even if you're over encumbered, you're not slowed down on your journey back. Let me just double check and make sure I didn't miss anything. I don't think I did. Let me go over here and grab this stuff real quick. I'm also pretty sure Ignore is encumbered, so if your party's over encumbered and can't move, you can still travel back to the Defender's Heart this way. And then once you're there, encumbrance doesn't matter. The old elf frowns as if he's listening closely to something, and then decisively turns his face to you. Donald, is it not? I recognize you from the sound of your footsteps. I'm taking you to the Defender's Heart. Please accept my sincere thanks once again, and if I may, please don't rush. I'll struggle to keep up with your young legs. Alright, so we have... That's right, Camellia's dead. We have 3 people to speak to. We have the Storyteller, Ember, and Nenio. But I think we can make that 4. Now, if I was successful in rescuing the knights that got burned in the Blackwing Library, I believe they stand right here. You can speak to their leader, Acclaimed.
Follow if you dare.
I believe a raised dead scroll is 9,000 gold. So
I'm
we're a
off.
little short. I can sell the Warhammer that I have. So he didn't trigger. Let me try it one more time. Alright, so there may be one more requirement for the other companion to trigger. That's only 6,000. I could make do without Camellia for now. Though she's going to be really useful for a couple areas, mostly because of the armor she's wearing. We also need her alive for her quest, so let's go ahead and bring her back. I'm not going to use her right now, though. We are going to rest while we're here in the Defender's Heart and head back to the Market Square. Before I do that, I need to make sure my spells are slotted. Actually, before we do that... greetings. The neat smile on Camelia's lips disappears so quickly, you must wonder if you imagined it. Let's go talk to Ember. The elf in front of you is young, still an adolescent by the standards of their long-lived folk. A childish, carefree smile plays on her face, and her wandering eyes linger on you for just a moment before darting off again into the distance. Terrible scars cover her body, and a few of her fingers are missing. A crow sits on her shoulder, observing you with its clever black eyes. You're always so cheerful. How do you manage to remain so hopeful when we're surrounded by such horror? Hope. She tilts her head and continues with a smile. No, hope is a lie. What should we hope for? This world is in the hands of demons. The gods can't help, or they don't want to. Or they forgot about us altogether. The people know they're about to be eaten by demons, but still they quarrel with each other, and fight and steal. There's no hope. Only us. We have to win without hope. It will be hard. The entire abyss is against us. We can only win by some miracle. Which means we'll have to make one happen. What other choice do we have? We'll work a miracle and win, because we have to. The elf smiles broadly and nods to herself. Tell me about yourself. Well, they call me Ember. I used to live in the River City, and now I walk with you. That's my story. Why do they call you Ember? I've had many names. When I was little, Mom and Dad called me Dove, or Cricket, or Kitten. Dad called me his Ray of Sunshine. And when Mom was cross, she called me by a long name, a grown-up one. I can't remember it, no matter how hard I try. Then when I came to live in the River City, the good people called me different funny names, like Ember or Torch or Smoky. I don't know why. They call me Birdbrain because I have a crow. They call me Lucky 7 because of my fingers. She raises her hands, the middle finger on her right hand and the two smaller fingers on her left are missing. They sometimes call me Grilled Meat, and said I was stupid. But I didn't feel hurt. I mean, they're right. I really am silly. They didn't mean to hurt me. I like Ember. It's a good word. Embers are like people. On the outside, they're gray and cold like stones, but they're warm inside. You can blow on them and they'll start a fire to help you survive a cold night. And that's wonderful, isn't it? Ember it is. Where are you from? Far away, from the flower country. The girl gestures vaguely off into the distance. It's so beautiful there. Everywhere there's flowers blooming, golden towers, and waterfalls. And everyone is like me, with pointy ears. There's no round-haired people, no short ones, no horned heads. We live there together, me and Mom and Dad. Mom and Dad argued a lot. Dad used to say that all the good people should go on the crusade and fight the demons. And Mom said he was silly because it was so far away and none of our business, and that he shouldn't abandon his child. She meant me. But he didn't abandon me. He took me along. He said I was born the same year that the hole to the demon world opened. He said it was a sign that I would be one of the heroes who close it. Of course, I'm not a hero, but I'm here anyway, helping as much as I can. Where did you get your scars? It happened by accident. My dad and I came sailing down the river to join the crusade. Dad said that all the good people were going to the world wound to heal it. He said that the crusaders were the best people in the world, and together we were going to win. But when we arrived at the River City, the crusaders got everything mixed up. They thought my dad and I were bad, and they decided to burn us at the stake. Dad died, and I cried so loudly that one good night realized it was all a big mistake. He started yelling at the other crusaders, even the one in charge, then walked right to the fire and got me out. The others wanted to stop him, but he took out his sword and scared them away. The kind knight took me to a healer. I later learned that while the knight was pulling me from the flames, he himself was burned so badly that he died not long after. But I'm still alive. A few fingers missing and my skin is funny. I've lived in the River City ever since. I never had my own house, but I had many friends. And then the demons came, and I met you. Do you know what happened after that? And that lynch mob called themselves Crusaders. For shame. People always call themselves pretty words, as if calling oneself a paladin or a commander is enough to stop you from being a poor, frightened sinner. He shrugs and smiles. But there was one true knight there, and the others came to their senses at last. Do you worship any deity? The girl shakes her head with an unwavering smile. Dad taught me to pray to Iomedae. He said she was a kind goddess. She called people to crusade against evil. The knights who burned my dad and me worshipped her too. They even lit the fire with a prayer to her, and she did nothing to help us. But then one kind knight, alone, without any gods, changed his mind and saved me. I think the gods are the same as us. They don't understand anything, and they're scared of everything. So they hurt themselves and the rest of us. People worship the gods only because they're afraid of being responsible for themselves. And the gods listen to the praise, and they become smug and arrogant, and begin to believe that they're better than us. But they're no better. They're silly sinners just like the rest of us. Sometimes I pray to the gods. Different ones. The good ones, the bad ones. Ask them to stop. Stop fighting and hurting each other. I don't know if they ever hear me, but if they do, I mean, the knight who wanted to burn me, he was able to change his mind and do a good deed. If he can change, maybe Baphomet can too. How did you survive on the streets? The elf shrugs. There are many good people in the River City. When I sang for them on the street, they'd often give me coins or bread, or sometimes even clothes. I shared everything with the other homeless, and they showed me where it's safe to sleep, where I could get out of the rain and the cold, where I could find discarded things. When the demons destroyed the River City, I looked for my friends, but I found no one. They probably all died. The homeless have no supplies or weapons or basements to hide in, and the knights won't protect them either. Knights are like gods, so self-important, they're saving the world after all. What do they care about the homeless? Still smiling, the girl shrugs. Where do your magical powers come from? These tricks? I have them from my grandma. She used to be my father's grandma, and before that, his father's. I've never seen her myself, but she's very clever and kind. When I lived on the street, sometimes she left food for me or a blanket in the winter. Sometimes I feel her stroking my hair as I fall asleep, but if I open my eyes, there's no one near. She also sent me soot. She scratches the crow's beak, and the bird grumbles happily in response. She tells Soot how to do different tricks, and Soot teaches me. It appears that Ember doesn't know who exactly gives her these powers. You can guess from her words that her patron is Andaletta, a powerful Archon, one of the Imperial Lords, also known as Grandmother Crow. So that brings up an interesting bit to her story. Because her father said he worshipped Iomedae, but she said that Andaletta's been in her family since her grandfather, right? Thank you for your answers. Oh, not at all. I didn't really tell you anything. I have to go. So go. The elf watches you with a radiant smile as you leave. Ember is bobbing her head and humming a tune. She greets you with a carefree, cheerful smile. Her wandering eyes linger on you for just a moment, before darting off again into the distance. Let's go talk to Nenio. Boy, I am pleased with you. I asked you to bring me to safety, and that's exactly what you did. Indeed, having a follower to aid me is most efficient and frankly pleasing. With you on hand, I shall conquer new horizons, plumb the depths of knowledge hitherto unknown, and scale the dizzying heights of future discoveries. Nenio stops to catch her breath. What I mean is, I'd like to express my deepest gratitude. I foresee immense potential in our future cooperation. Happy to help. Hand in hand, we'll unravel the greatest mysteries inaccessible to the minds of ordinary people. Just imagine it. I leading the way, proudly staring to the faces of the gods themselves, and you, my loyal follower, walking behind me every step of the way, writing down my deepest thoughts and admiring the profundity of my intellect. If we hold hands, you won't be able to go in front of me and lead the way. You're the catalyst which, when it reacts with my intellect, will allow the latter to grasp the very essence of the universe itself. Do you always express your delight so effusively? What? Who are you? Nenio stares at you for a while, bewilderment in her eyes, but then it is replaced by recognition. Oh yes, my new follower. So what am I supposed to do? Oh yes, I must provide some verbal encouragement for your as yet modest achievements, and try to induce you to strive for more of such encouragement. That is the principle that underpins any training. She frowns, but only for an instant. I see. Your modest nature was unsettled by the overabundance of my gratitude. I do apologize for putting you in such an awkward position. I'll never praise you again, unless I forget. Let's get back to the business at hand. Your new assignment will be to take me to the inconspicuous ruins that are located in an even more inconspicuous valley, lying between Canabras and Dresden, as soon as it is reasonably practicable. I'll mark the place on your map with a large red cross, so you won't forget it. What's so special about these ruins near Canabras? I'm glad you asked. This is my greatest hypothesis, my secret project. I won't pass up the opportunity to share it with you, because you're my most loyal follower, and you're worthy of possessing such knowledge. Nenio rubs her nose, and also because you're the first person to ever ask me about it. Some time ago, I was walking around the border of the World Wound, and I met a strange person. He was wearing a frayed gray robe, and his face was hidden behind an odd white mask. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Of course, I didn't miss the opportunity to ask him about the reasons for his absurd appearance. And do you know what he said to me? He said, I am the answer, but what is the question? And he walked off in the direction of the World Wound. The next day, after I'd already forgotten about the first encounter, I had another similar encounter. This time I met an elven woman, judged by the pointy ears sticking out from behind the mask. I am the answer, but what is the question, she said. We're taking off toward the World Wound. And then I realized everything became clear to me. I know a mystery when I see one. Consider this one of my myriad talents. Nenio rubs the tip of her nose. After all these geysers weren't simply on their way to a costume party, were they? After examining several maps, I determined that they were all heading in one direction, to a place not far from Canabras, a place which is marked as nameless ruins even on ancient Sarkorian maps. That's where I need to go. Unraveling the secret of that place will be my greatest discovery. It will secure my place in history, or perhaps even in legend. How do you know where we have to go? You know how to find a beehive in a forest. You need to catch 2 bees, set them free in 2 different locations of the forest, and remember the directions they fly in. Then you take a map and draw lines showing the bees' routes. The place where the lines intersect will mark the location of the beehive. Fascinating, yes? By the way, forest bees do not make any honey. Nenio sighs. I used the beehive principle here too. For a couple of months, I tracked the strange people in the masks and observed the direction in which they were traveling. I collected the coordinates, mapped their estimated routes, and made a discovery. All the routes intersected at the nameless ruins not far from Canabras. What do you expect to find there? I haven't the slightest idea. If I knew what was hidden there, I wouldn't be so eager to go. These ruins aren't very far from Canabras. You could easily go there all by yourself. Why do you need me? Nenio's eyes seem ready to pop out of their sockets in surprise. Don't you see? This is a legendary secret place. Who knows what may happen to me after I lift the veil and uncover the workings of the universe? My mortal body may be unable to contain all that knowledge, or perhaps I will ascend and become equal to the gods themselves. I need you to write down everything that happens and report my fate to the interested parties in Absalom. And don't forget to praise me, as I deserve while you're there. You know, these ruins of yours may turn out to be just that. Ruins. Nenio shrugs. In that case, we'll write this experiment off as a failure, and start another one. I don't know which experiment I'll try next. That's all I wanted to know about your task. Well, now you know, so off we go. Nenio frowns. Did I just make a rhyme? Perhaps I discovered a poetic talent in myself. Let's conduct an experiment. Quickly, say any word and I'll try to find a rhyme for it right away. Science. That's when thinkers make alliance. Intellectual defiance. Not the best rhymes, don't you think? Well, this experiment was unsuccessful. We learned that I have no poetic talent after all. Nenio sighs. But it's no reason to despair. Having a gift of poetry in addition to my inexhaustible intelligence would have been a little too much. Besides, I'm catastrophically busy, and no time to spend on writing poetry. I don't like it when you call me boy. My name is Donald. On the grand scale of world history, your name is irrelevant. I have no reason to remember it. You see, the brain of any given individual can contain only a limited amount of facts. I only expend my memory on things that are truly important. The laws of thermodynamics, divine esoterica, planar geography. Things that will lead Golarion to a brighter future. Nenio rubs her nose. Besides, what if I make a great discovery, but I won't be able to remember it because my memory is full of outdated or useless information? What a nightmare that would be. What a loss for the whole of Golarion. But you do remember your own name, right? Only so I know what to put for the author's name in my encyclopedia. Are there any names worth remembering? There are, and to my deepest regret, there are too many of them. Nenio heaves a sigh that would befit a grief-stricken old man. The names of gods and demigods, the names of rulers, conquerors, and other persons by some reason deemed great by the people of Golarion. They etch their names into history, and alas, every self-respecting, educated person must know them. But there are some names I am happy to remember. Great scientists, some of them divine, others mortal, true keepers of knowledge, and great experimentalists. The pioneers of knowledge, Aurori, Nethys, Aureliu Vorlesh. Aureliu Vorlesh opened the world wound. She's a betrayer of humanity. It's her fault the demons invaded Golarion. Oh yes, she's the greatest of the greatest. Just imagine. She managed to open a rift from Golarion to the Abyss. No one knew how. No one believed it possible. No one even dreamed of such a thing. And she just did it. It was the experiment of the century. Nenio wipes a tear from her eye. I'd have been so happy if I could have been in her place. Of course, some part of Golarion's population died as a result of her experiment, and the Crusaders are still wrestling with its consequences to this day. But the very essence of what Aureliu managed to do was a breakthrough of cosmic significance, both figuratively and literally. Sooner or later, the world wound will be closed. Peace will return to Golarion. As for the victims of the ongoing war, they will be remembered as unfortunate but unavoidable sacrifices made at the altar of science. You're crazy. Nenio blinks at you perplexed. Were we talking about something? Tell me about yourself. I'm an explorer, a pilgrim, a yet-to-be-recognized scientific luminary, future author of the Encyclopedia Golorionica, and rector of all of Absalom's universities at once. Future rector, I should say. Nenio speaks in one breath, as if reeling off a practiced monologue. That information should be enough to satisfy your curiosity, because I doubt I'll be able to tell you more than that. But where are you from? That information is irrelevant. I've decided to forget it. How did you become a scientist? That information is irrelevant. I've decided to forget it. You have a circle tattooed on your shoulder. What does it mean? Nenio casts a sidelong glance at his shoulder. Oh, that. I do not remember the circumstances of its creation, but I like it. I prefer to think of it as a zero, null, nothing. A center point, an origin of coordinates. Reminds me how much of the unknown world there is to explore. Don't you remember how you got this tattoo? That information is irrelevant. I've decided to forget it. How can you just decide to forget important pieces of information? That is just one of my many talents. The secret is to stop thinking about the thing you want to forget. And the main thing is to not remember anything you don't need. To filter it. To get right to the essence. I'll teach you someday, unless I forget. What is this encyclopedia you're working on? The Encyclopedia Golorionica will be published in 100 volumes, 1,000 pages each, plus the author's addenda, appendices, added by future co-authors, and critical commentaries. Addenda indexation is still in question. Nenio looks slightly embarrassed. I just like the number 100, but I'm not sure that I'll be able to keep within the established word limit. It will be a magisterial piece of scholarship that will become a part of the mandatory curriculum of every educational institution worth mentioning. In it, I intend to describe every object, item, event, fact, and personality that is present on, or at least somehow related to, Golarion. My calculations show that I've completed no more than 1% of this monumental book. Do you remember your parents, your past, or is that all irrelevant too? All of it is irrelevant on the grand scale of world history. I have no reason to remember such things. Forgive me for saying this, but you're out of... no, I'm not going to say that. I do admire the capabilities of your memory. Nenio stays silent and gives you a puzzled look. What? What were we talking about? I'll stop torturing you with questions for now. Eh? What were we talking about? I'd like to clarify a few things about your new task. Your craving for knowledge will be immediately satisfied. Ask away. And that's all I wanted to know about your task. If you have any other questions, just ask. I have to go. Nenio produces a crumpled piece of paper from her sleeve and takes some notes on it. This conversation lasted approximately 5 minutes. She lifts her chin. By the way, did you know that that is the exact same amount of time the Inquisitors of Canabris need to find a defendant guilty? But to shake off Inquisitors chasing you takes 5 minutes, 5 times as long. The experiment proved that running while clad in heavy armor is not burdensome for them at all. What? Oh, it's you. Alright.
I'm gone.
Well, I'm gonna call it here. Next time we'll speak to the storyteller. I will check in with the other NPCs as well, and we'll rest up and head back towards the market square. But for now, thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys in the next one.